Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Ben 10 Retrospectives, and today we're going to be looking at episode 26 of the original Ben 10 series, slash the season 2 finale, Back with a Vengeance. And in this episode, Tennyson's visit Niagara Falls, and of course Gwen and Max are admiring the natural beauty while Ben is just off on the side messing with the Omnitrix, which is kind of weird when you think about it, because in the last episode messing with the Omnitrix caused a lot of trouble, but Ben doesn't like to listen, so while Ben's messing with it, suddenly it suddenly just does it. He inputs something, and suddenly it just starts cycling through his aliens, and then after just mistakenly saying maybe it's just some kind of an upgrade, he turns into the alien upgrade. He turns into the alien upgrade, and so Ben quickly catches on that he has somehow gotten unlocked what he thinks is the master control, which pretty much now to his knowledge anyway, allows him access to every single one of his aliens, and he doesn't even have to transform back into Ben. There's no time limit. He can stay transformed as long as he wants. He can turn back whenever he wants. He can just switch between them with a thought, and so Ben, being Ben, abuses the heck out of it. Like at first he's just shifting through them all for fun, doing stupid things like seeing which one can hot the best loogie, and even using Stinkfly to give rides to tourists. And of course, and it's all just getting on the nerves of Max and Gwen. But in the meantime, we get the return of two big bads of the series. First is Kevin, who has somehow gained control of the Mega Cruiser. Don't know how, even as a crew. Don't know where he got them. But he has gained control of the Mega Cruiser. Technorg is nowhere to be seen. But but he picks up something from Saturn's rings. And that thing is Vilgax, frozen in a giant block of ice. And no, the episode does not explain how he got out there, considering that the last time we saw him, he was on Earth and his shit was blowing up. He shouldn't be anywhere near space, but he's there, so I don't know. They don't explain it. Many fans actually speculate on how they did it. My personal favorite is the Kydra explanation that Ben threw him into space, that Ben battled Vilgax and threw him into space with the help of an experiment from Lilo and Stitch. If you don't know what that is, check out Trogs and Wristbands. It's a guilty pleasure fanfic of mine. It's just for nostalgia's sake. I think it's still very nice. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Pretty much, anyway, after Kevin frees Vilgax, or more specifically, he insults Vilgax, and Vilgax, through sheer anger, breaks free of the ice and kicks Kevin and starts fighting Kevin. They both learn that they both know Ben, and that they both have some kind of beef to pick with Ben. So they decide to work together. Vilgax, I assume, gets his own little section where he makes technology, and they both decide that they're gonna try and get Ben and remove the Omnitrix. Vilgax because that's all he wants, and Kevin, he wants to do it because Vilgax convinces him that he'll have a better chance of getting revenge on Ben if he doesn't have the Omnitrix, which actually does make sense. So they go to Earth, but Ben puts up a better fight against them because he's quick changing. But Max is worried because Vilgax and Kevin together are probably too strong, so he opts to try and do another and Ben's being more cocky, so he's afraid that he'll make more mistakes, and that with these two he's probably underestimating them. So Max decides to take matters into his own hands and decides he's going to take care of them in the quickest way he can think of, which is sending them into the null void. How? Well, the projector that Phil used in the first episode of season 2, it turns out that Max after he put it back in Mount Rushmore at some point off screen, he actually decided to take it for himself, just in case the Tennysons would ever need it, and so he thinks this qualifies. So Vilgax and Kevin confront them because they lost Ben, and so they think that Max and Gwen are the best way to get him, or the best way to flush him out. But Max immediately just turns the null void projector on him. But Ben, having overheard their plans, rushes in, and despite the fact that Max clearly did something, he still rushes in, and while Kevin and Vilgax are getting sucked in, Ben is pulled in as well, and so all three of them are now stuck in the null void. And this is the first time in the series that we ever see the null void, and they did talk about what the Null Void was like in truth a little bit. They only stated it was a prison for criminals, but they never went on to describe it. And honestly, I like the look of the Null Void. It's very mysterious and just kind of otherworldly, which is what it is. It's another dimension. But it really is just it's kind of just other. It is just kind of sort of strange and weird. Like there's not really like in terms of creativity. I can't really say there's a lot, but there is still some because we see a purple void, and throughout the entire void is just rock pillars and structures that don't seem to connect to anything. That just kind of they're spread out as veins. They're just going all over the place, and this place just seems to have its own physics. As there are times when when characters just climb around rocks, and in some cases actually are able to walk around them, or the rocks are just floating there. It is just very very weird. But anyway, Vilgax and Kevin are still going after Ben, and except in this case, it's just they're now just more unrelenting. They're just more unrelenting because now they're all three just stuck there, and Vilgax is in control of these flying gray things that appeared in truth. And I think I named them these are called the Null Guardians, which we learned in Alien Force, but I don't care. But screw it. I'm gonna call them that now because it's better than calling them gray flying things. But but in the meantime, Gwen volunteers for a rescue mission, which Max was originally going to do, but Gwen makes the argument that he's the only one that can work the Null Void projector, so Gwen gets all this gear, goes into the Null Void, and she manages to catch up with Ben, and they're about to leave, but they're cut off by Vilgax and Kevin, who grab Gwen, hold her hostage, and Ben decides that his cousin's life is more important than his powers, as he relents, transforms back to himself, and says that if they can have the Omnitrix, if they let his cousin go, which they do, and I forgot to mention that throughout the entire time that that Kevin and Vilgax have been battling Ben, Kevin has had this machine strapped to his back, and turns out Kevin, and once Kevin's close enough, he throws Gwen aside, throws Ben to the ground, and then uses the machine to actually do what we have never seen happen before. The Omnitrix finally comes off. He puts it down. It does its whole giant green light show thing that it does security protocols, but the machine manages to hit the Omnitrix and actually manages to get it off of Ben's wrist without any tearing, or without any wear or tear or any damage to the watch or Ben. But Ben ultimately admits that he zeroed out the Master Control just before they hand it over, but Vilgax says he can easily just unlock it again. But at that point, and this is what happens during every supervillain team-up, Kevin betrays Vilgax, tries to make a run out of the Null Void with the Omnitrix, which, honestly, I don't really know why he would want it, considering that he's already an amalgam of all these aliens. He'd probably be good enough by himself, but at this point, it causes a mad chase as Gwen and Ben, and everyone's just trying to make a mad dash for the portal while also making sure the villains don't get the Omnitrix. And Gwen is able to snatch it out of Kevin's hands. The Vilgax and Kevin head them off. Ben tells her to just throw it away, and it looks like she does. Vilgax goes after it. Ben is able to get Kevin distracted so that he doesn't go after Gwen. And because Ben is resourceful, he manages to evade Kevin and then get out just before the portal closes, trapping Kevin and Vilgax in the Null Void. And when they get back, Ben is sorry. He's mourning because he not only lost his powers, but because Max and Gwen were correct. He was arrogant and cocky, and he abused his powers. But it turns out that Gwen didn't throw the Omnitrix away, because before she went into the Null Void, she was equipped with all this plumber tech, which included all these bombs, a jetpack, and yes, a little laser pistol. And it turns out that what she actually threw was one of her bombs that she just shrunk down to make it look like the pod the Omnitrix was in, because the Omnitrix was input in a pod when it was removed from Ben. So Vilgax and Kevin are now stuck in the Null Void until they're needed again, and Ben gets the Omnitrix back, and since he zeroed it out, the status quo is restored, and Ben is no longer mourning and sorry and just tries to go alien, only to mess with Gwen, only to transform into gray matter. So yeah, like season 1, I kind of went nuts with the plot, but I don't know. Some of you are probably gonna get mad and get the wrong idea, but I want to stress right now. I think this is a very fun episode. I think it's fun to watch. Like, I think the first, like, I liked seeing Ben gain this new control over the Omnitrix and do kind of what they did in season one, except in this case have more control, and it further shows Ben's creativity as he knows as he's able to go from one alien to the next, apply different forces, different strategies, able to use their abilities in tandem because he knows them so well, and it is actually very well done. And the fight scenes actually are creative. Just seeing him switch between them and all the case, and of course, it is awesome to see Vilgax and Kevin team up because these are two of the best villains of the show. Vilgax is awesome because he's cool because he can be smart and sinister, but he is loud and strong. And then there's Kevin, who, while he is a moron, he is just unrelenting, and he's just a fun moron. And again, I love the Dark Doppelganger, and this is Kevin. He's an evil 11-year-old with this monstrosity of a body. It's just fun. I like that, and I do like that. And I do like the climax. It is awesome, because it does get heart-pounding, because they're under a time limit. The portal between the Null Void and Earth can only stay open for so long. Kevin and Vilgax are just unrelenting. Ben has to keep finding ways to evade them. They're all dealing with their own problems, and just to see the Omnitrix finally come off, and then to try and get all this stuff together, it is heart pounding stuff. And I do kind of like how it goes. And yeah, it does show more Ben's weakness, because they're right. Ben does get arrogant. He does mess with his cousin and grandfather to the point where it does cause him problems. Like, if he wasn't being so arrogant, he wouldn't have rushed into the Null Void. Gwen wouldn't have gotten hurt. It actually is costing him. It actually is costing him. And it almost does cost him his cousin, except Ben being Ben, he still wants to do the right thing, and so when faced between his cousin or his powers, he chooses family, which is again a good strong character trait. Though when he gets his powers back, it actually does make sense that he would try and immediately cover that up by acting like his immediate jerky self again. So, but and I know you're probably gonna call me crazy. I think season one's finale was better. That's not to say this episode is bad. It is not bad. As I just went on and said, it is still a very fun episode with some very good stuff in it. But the reason I think season one is better is because that felt more conclusionary. Because season one, in its own ways here and there, built up to the ultimate climax. And even once the episode started, you knew what you were getting yourself into. The ride started the instant Ben woke up screaming. One woke up from his nightmare and said Vilgax was coming for him. You knew shit was going to go down from there, and things just kept escalating. In this case, the episode just kind of starts small, like a normal episode. Even Ben unlocking the Master Control and Vilgax and Kevin meeting up are just kind of treated slow. Like, because there wasn't really much build up towards seeing Kevin again, because we did see multiple appearances of him throughout season 2, but that was a total of 2. And the only other time we've seen Vilgax in season 2 was in Gwen 10, and that wasn't even a canon episode. So, this episode wasn't just built up, it was just a fun season finale, which, again, it's still fun, it is a good episode, it is a very good episode. It's just that you kind of have to ease into it. And even then, I'm not gonna lie, I think the first 2/3 feel a little rushed in that regard. It's not so much that it's not so much that it just feels forced, but it doesn't feel like it's laying everything, it doesn't feel like it's laying everything set either. It just kind of feels like it's getting everything out there, and then it gives you one kick-ass climax, which is, it is a kick-ass climax. It's still a very fun episode. And again, season 1's finale revealed more, had more stuff built up in it, and it just kind of felt more. And while you didn't get all the answers, you did get enough so that you felt satisfied. In this case, again, it's just one episode. There was no big mystery that was being built up throughout the whole season. We got this, and that's it. Again, it's not bad at all. I love this episode. It is fun. But I admit, if I have to choose between the season 1 finale and this one, I would probably go for season 1 if just for the build up to this this confrontation and just the everything in between. But again, this episode doesn't suck. It is a very good episode. First two thirds, again, I like the master control. I like Ben getting cocky. I liked the fight scenes. I loved seeing Kevin and Ben go up. I love the climax. Again, it's a good episode. I'm going nuts over it, but I think it's a very good episode. Again, in terms of season finales, I liked season 1 better, but this wasn't bad either. It was still fun, so yeah, I'm good. I'm all the good, so yeah. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson. I hope you have a happy new year, and tune in next year when we take a look at episode 27 of Ben 10, and we take a look at the first episode of season 3. So, yeah, I'm Sam Johnson. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week or next year. Take care.